Hey folks, this is Tolhi and welcome to Let's Do Some Game Dev. I don't know, there's not parts here, we're making a video game. We are still just working through menu UI stuff. Last time we did game dev, we basically had changed around the entire way that we did all of our screens. We kind of went to the route of like how all of our menus are put together, and like did a huge breakdown all of that, and then ended up finding like lots of problems with how it was being constructed and like work through those. Today going to be a little less code based. I'm hoping we may run into some bugs that may lead into this being very code dependent, but my hope today is to work on this transition. So when we switch between screens, we have like this pan that happens where everything moves left and right. And it's literally everything. So right now what's happening is when we push equipment, everything, this piece, this background, this piece, everything slides to the left, and it does it again here. And when we go back, everything slides to the right, and then when we go back again, everything slides to the right again. And this is a problem, simply because it means that everything has to be positioned and moved simultaneously. And I think I want to, and that might, okay, let me take a step back. I think there might be a better solution here. I think the better solution is, instead of having everything kind of sitting off screen and then sliding everything, I think what might work better, but I don't know, and I want to experiment today, is instead of having this on screen space, change this to world space, and then have it so that the camera itself moves. So if we grab this camera and move it to the left, it should move everything else. Okay, well, I guess this is the first step, is validating that my understanding of how UI camera works is correct. So when we move this left and right, we should see this updating, but it is currently not. Oh, it is. Oh, this preview isn't updating immediately. That's all it is. Okay, cool. So if we bring these together, yeah, we see how all of this slides in and out. It's a bit broken for a number of reasons, but at its core, if I grab the background, is there one of these that's just pure gray? There is. Okay, so if we just take that one and expand it outwards in this direction, and then we go back to our UI camera, and then go back to moving it, and we switch back to the game view. Yeah, it's less broken now. So instead of moving, so the camera we can kind of think about as being at this kind of center position. Instead of having to move all the elements to the left so that they're in view of this camera, I think it might make a lot more sense to just move the camera. And then we're moving one object left and right instead of having to move everything. I'm not sure how fast or how slow and a bunch of other problems that I'll need to solve, but I think at its core, we want to move this thing left and right. Okay, and that's mainly what we're going to try and do today. We're going to try and encode, set it up so that we can move the camera instead of moving all the elements. Now, let's start by visualizing what we're actually up against. So if we go into my node-based editor, this is something I built recently for myself, which kind of represents all of the screen transitions that we have in the game. So we start on HUD normally is where we load in, which is like the black screen we normally load to. And then we go to the main menu, and then from the main menu we go into the unit select for skills, and then skill select, the node, and then the one we've been showing is into the unit select for equip, then the slot select for equip, and then the equip select. And so just to show that again, if we come back into here and we hit play and we enter into here and go to equipment, this is the character selecting, this is choosing what equipment slot that we're modifying, and this is choosing the equipment that we want to equip into that slot. And so those are kind of those three screens, and those are represented here by these series of arrows. Now, when we go into this screen, we want to play two different sets of animations. Right now we're playing a like what I call a sequence, which is a series of steps basically, and we're turning everything on, and then we're translating everything 284 units to the left. And then when we go to when we leave, we do the reverse. We translate everything 800 pixels to one side. But it looks like there's a minor bug in that we don't do everything completely in reverse because we're not turning everything back off again. So this is where we're moving like the equip background, the unit menu list, the slot menu list, the equipment menu list. We're moving all of this stuff to the left. So I think the first test is simply if we give... We exit here, right? And if we go to the, let's stack this back up. If we go into the scene, we find the UI camera. This has a canvas ID, which is front end camera. If we grab that and we go to where we transition in, right? This is unit select from main menu. If we go to the base asset, which manages all this stuff. So all of this list is the exact same information as this. This is just more easily visible to and easier to view because everything is kind of in this nice node graph, but this is the same information. So we're looking for main menu to unit select. So main menu to unit select equip. So in here, this is this asset, which is doing this. If we just duplicate this, right, and then we'll have this be camera test, and then in the transition we replace this here, and then if we reopen our node-based graph, does that hookup work correctly? Yeah, that now points to the camera test one. Okay, cool. So now let's start messing with this. So we're gonna get rid of, so we probably still want to turn everything off, but instead of translating all the objects, let's instead do a translate UI. Interesting. So translate UI works off of moving the UI stuff in UI space, but I don't know if the camera is in UI space. It's not gonna be. Oh, that's the combat camera. If we grab the UI camera and we pull this thing, switch everything to world space, okay. And then if we grab the UI camera and we pull it to just barely so that this divide between the two of them is right up against the edge, how far over to the left is that? 17.7. Are we sure that's not just 18? No, that looks too far. 17.5? 7.75? Oh, that's sad. It looks like it is a really odd number. Why is it such an odd number? this line here is what we're looking at. We want that line to line up with the edge of this white line. And so now we're just kind of pixel pushing or shifting that until it's exactly right. That's exactly right. So now the question is, why is it that in order for us to go one screen width to the left perfectly, like on the pixel, it needs to be 17.77778 positions. If we remove one of those sevens, yeah, it shifts just a little bit. And if we bring one of these up to an 8, then it goes too far. That is the actual position it needs to be at. But why? Why that precise? It's also possible we're measuring from the wrong spot, but that looks to be pretty accurate to me. It also lines up with this dark part down here. So our screen size is 640 pixels, right? So if we take a calculator and we do 640 pixels divided by 17.7778, we come out to almost exactly 36. That probably doesn't tell me anything. I'm trying to figure out what the correlation is between that number and the number of pixels. Because if we start at 0, right? 0 is perfectly along the left edge. It is. Okay. I'm going to make sure to write down 17.7778 is the number, the exact position in the X that we need to move over to the left. For the sake of moving forward, let's at least try doing that. So let's translate 1.5 seconds. I need to take a look at what UI translate's actually doing, because it might not be UI translate we need to use. We may have to come up with a new sequence step for moving something that isn't actually a UI piece. UI. Oh, that's not its name. That's like its special ID that I gave it. Let's go to sequence steps. Underneath of UI, translate UI. So this is doing internally it's doing a do tween of a rect transform. Yeah, we can't use that. Okay, let's try adding a new sequence step. So we'll take a copy. Sequence steps. Show me my sequence steps. We'll take a copy of that UI one. Copy translate. Control D to duplicate, and then we'll drag that up to base, because I think this is just going to be a common one. It's just moving an object. We just don't have this concept yet. So this is translate. We could also do, instead of translate, we could do move to position, or move to pause sequence step for short. Okay, now instead of a rect transform, we're going to get a regular transform. We can get it via that short naming. Okay, and then we're going to do transform dot do we want to modify it based off its local position or its global position? In this case, it probably doesn't matter. But we'll do it off of its main position. And then instead of doing the anchor, let's just do go to, essentially. So we're not going to offset it. We're just going to change this from translation vector to destination or dest. Okay. Do move. It wants a vector 3 instead of a vector 2. And we can probably just do this. We just have to update the list. Okay, and then we do the same thing here. These are now vector 3s instead of vector 2s. And I think this should be a new sequence. Okay. That will move an object to a specific destination vector. So if we close out here and we come back to where we were, and here, instead of doing a translation, let's now do that new step we've set up, which should hopefully be set up. It's not. Why do we have errors? Because we need to update the constructors. Okay. That should be the fix, and now it should be up and running. No more errors, please. Those errors don't matter to me. I'm going to ignore those. Okay, and then going back to this one, adding base, move to position, and there it is. It's just there. We're going to update. What was the value? Luckily, I wrote it down separately. 17.7778 over 1.5 seconds. And this is going to be the camera that we're moving. So UI camera, front end camera, transition by this amount, and we'll remove this transition. Okay. Now, everything should look exactly as it always has. And it doesn't. Is that because we left the camera in a weird spot? Does not seem to be. Interesting. So having it set to UI camera space and starting it, it works fine. And if we switch it to world space, there's a little bit of weirdness, but it still mostly is working fine. However, if we start in world space and hit run, everything is busted and the camera isn't in the right position. Interesting. We're going to copy this transform, paste values, Perfect. Okay. So the position was being set as part of this version. Yeah, so all of this gets grayed out in this version. But these are the values that we care about. And by copying them while we were running the game and then pasting them, we now have the camera set to the right size for this type of game. Okay. So now, from here, we have this weirdness with this piece, which I'm not sure what that's about. Let's hit Y and enter in. Okay. Thank you for the follow, Ragul. Thanks for stopping by. First time chatter. I saw you mention or say hello on YouTube first. Sorry I didn't notice that right away. Working on some game dev this evening. Working on my JRPG, kind of knee deep in screen transitions. Oh, okay. So that looks super busted. Now, the reason that looks super busted is a bunch of reasons, but I'm gonna start by assuming that that's because of this gray background not being long enough. Again, we're gonna need to make this much bigger. We'll say ×3 on the width. Should hopefully be enough. It doesn't look like it's quite long enough, but it'll be okay. And we'll open up the menu again. Go to the equipment. Interesting. So 17 was too far. It got rounded to 18. Interesting. Oh, was the positioning wrong because we were in the wrong scale? Fascinating. Okay, so we were at 0 here, and this was 10? That's a much better number to work with. Okay, so we're 10 units to the left is based off of having our camera scaled correctly. Okay, so run this. Okay, so it moves, well, not exactly to the right spot, but to a better spot. Okay. Because technically we actually overshoot. Now, one thing that's kind of weird about this though is that there's kind of like a jitter as it moves. So why are we getting that jitter? This has snapping turned on. And snapping was really important for when we were moving the elements, but I'm not sure if snapping is important for when we're moving the camera. So let's give this a try. Okay, entering in. Okay, so that's smoother. Where do we actually want this camera to end up is the next question. Also, Ragul, I see you said you've been watching the video since 2011. Appreciate it. You just randomly got the notification today. I'm always curious when people come back for a while, or for who I haven't seen in a while. I imagine it was just a random YouTube notification. But curious. Where are we? UI camera. I think we want to be closer to there. 17.5 seems pretty close. So let's update to that value. Or 13. Ah, time zone. Yep. This evening, mostly going to be working on, like I said, the game dev stuff. It's not exactly my most interesting content, but it's something that I enjoy streaming simply because it keeps me focused and allows me to really concentrate. Because I've gained this skill from streaming and making videos over the past 10 years of just like talking out what I'm trying to solve. But with that skill is valuable in trying to solve problems when I'm working on my video game as well. And so it just allows me to get stuff done. I've been doing a lot of other streaming lately too, where we've been doing a lot of Minecraft again. We've been doing a lot of Pokemon Nuzlocke on Shining Pearl. Done some Stardew a few months or last month. I want to get back to that at some point as well, but Minecraft has been taking up a lot of my time. But those for that reason, with it taking up a lot of my time, I definitely want to try and take on a bit more game dev. To make sure that I'm not letting my game run to one side either, because it's important to me. So this is translating the camera. So we are no longer translating all of the individual components to the left. We now instead are translating the camera to the right to find them. So if we go to here, we need to get it working in reverse as well. So if we take a look at our transitions and we look at our main menu to equip screen, we need to do the inverse one. So this one is unit select. So this is the one that's translating in reverse right now. Let's make a duplicate of this one and let's make this the camera version instead. So instead of translating the UI elements, we'll translate the camera and we'll hook that up here. Yes, okay. And then we'll remove this guy and we will add camera, no, base, move to position, and we're going to do the same camera movement we did here, but in reverse. And so we are currently moving to this position. We actually want to move to 0 because we're choosing the destination, so we're going to go back to 0, 0, 0, and we'll do that over 1.5 seconds. So if we go back, there's some weirdness with the way that things are overlapping, but technically we can go back and forth. And the weirdness is because the main menu is still doing the translation. You can see it up here, but we've only updated the camera to be moving on this one. Now, that being said, that means that whatever is doing this translation doesn't need to do that anymore, because we can leave this behind when our camera goes to the right. So for the sake of my sanity, let's open up my node editor and let's see the transition from... So this is the main menu changing, and this is the inverse of the main menu changing. So if we've got everything in source tree, so if we need to revert changes that we make, we can go back. Let's remove this translate, and let's remove this translate. And if we take those away, and then run it again, now everything's in line. Cool. The menu turns on and off in a bit of a weird way as it pops in and out. We'll need to potentially tweak that as well, which honestly could just be removing this, this step. We may not need that. Yeah, I think we don't have the menu turn off and on. I think it just exists now because it's going off screen and we don't need to necessarily turn it on and off. There's probably a small performance hit for leaving it on, but okay, so that's translating left and right. Now, we do have these stats and other bars in the middle. those are from a separate screen that are on by default, it looks like. Most things in the game have auto deactivate flags that like turn them off. What is this? Yeah, that's that part. So this needs an auto deactivate. Auto deactivate. We may have to update a sequence to turn it back on again at some point, but that's fine. That's fine. And then the stat info, the skill info. This one here also needs an auto deactivate, so it'll turn off when we run. Okay. So if we go in now, we translate to the left, we go back. Okay, let's make the game full screen. One of the big problems I've been running into with this is that when we translate left and right, it feels a bit jittery. I don't think that's gone away though. Even with moving the camera instead of the elements, there's kind of this base kind of almost like jitter that we have in the system. If we zoom in, probably makes it worse. This is my life. Okay, let's open up screen to GIF. So screen to GIF will take a GIF of my screen, and we can set this to be 640 by, well, yeah, let's do 360. It'll be more memory efficient. And then let's go back to regular scale for the game. Line that up. Hit record and hit enter once and back. Okay. And then let's take a look at this slowly in and see what it's doing. So it starts moving. Huh. Let's just loop it for a second here. Can we change the speed? That's the zoom. I'm trying to see what it is that's causing it to look funky. And I feel like what I'm seeing here is that it's moving in odd chunks. Like it'll move five. Let's come up with a random unit of measurement, right? Let's say that this step is like 1, right? I feel like this one is like a 2. I feel like it's going like 1 2 1 2 1 2 in terms of how it moves, which makes it feel jittery to the eye. Okay, let's watch it in here again. Because the GIF is also like only taking so many frames per second, whereas this is more clean, or is a higher frame rate if we're running it in game, obviously, rather than trying to take the GIF. But so like some of that step motion might just be the GIF itself, but I'm trying to find a way, like I could try slowing it down, but I don't know if slowing it down is going to create the same experience. This should be timescale dependent. I have the I may not have the debug tool. There's a debug tool that allows me to change the timescale of Unity in real time, or with a hotkey, I should say. Let's timescale debug tool. Okay, so if I control plus number pad, that should go faster. So this is not changing how fast I'm moving it, it's just how frequently Unity updates. Ragul asking to see the code and if there's some time delta. So we can take a look at that. Some of it's a little black boxy because I'm using DoTween, which is like a, if you're not familiar, it's like a Unity plugin that you can use. But it allows you to kind of move objects very easily. It's a very nice API. It's super effective. It's great. Open source, free, all the good stuff. I like DoTween. I've used it many years professionally within the game industry on different projects, and like it's something I like using for this personal project as well because I'm familiar with it. So what we're doing is we're saying, hey, DoTween, I want to move this vector to this vector over this number of seconds, and you can set some things. So I currently have a linear easing, so it should be playing out at a fixed update step. It won't like. If we bring up Paint real quick, it should go from wherever we're trying to take it to wherever it's trying to go, and it should do that in a linear way. Well, okay, well, let's use an actual straight line. It should do that in a straight line way, right? But the other way you could do it is you could do it more in a like arc like that, so that it starts off going really fast over time, getting towards the destination position, and then as it gets closer, it'll slow down and take more time to reach the final destination. So we have it linear, so it should be a set, and then we have update type to fixed. Now this is again something I've been playing with off camera, trying to get this to look right, but essentially the update type is Unity can have you can update in the normal, late, fixed, or manual. Manual is we do it ourselves and feed it our own delta time. Fixed should be like a fixed update of like, hey, it's going to send it out at certain intervals. So DoTween will handle all of the actual updating itself. Unlockable characters with the hydrate redemption. Appreciate it. You're right. I haven't drank any water. I've been too focused. Appreciate it. Excuse me. Okay, dying. So we have the DoTween kind of just happening. Like I don't have a lot of control over DoTween because it's kind of just happening in a black box. But if we like slow down delta time here, this does look like it's moving at like a pretty fixed interval, at least when time is slowed down. If we speed things back up to like regular speed, I think it's moving smoothly. I think the problem is our eyes. And I'm not sure how to defeat this, but I think your eye makes things look blurry because they're moving pretty fast. So we could move things faster so that it becomes less noticeable. But I feel like there's actually probably more of a hardcore renderer problem here that needs solving. Maybe some sort of shader, but if we just made it a half-second delay, which, you know, making your UI transitions faster is probably a good thing in general. Let's make it a half-second to go from there to there. So that feels smoother. but it also feels like too fast in a lot of ways. We don't have live updating, so we'll just close and then modify and then hit play again. See, when I slow it down though, it feels jittery. Like and again, it could just be my eyes playing tricks on me, but it feels like it's almost like it's taking a step forward, step back, a step forward, a step back. And I don't know if that'll come across on the stream, but that's just how it feels. Honestly, probably the right answer for my own sanity is to continue to ignore it like I have been for a few months and just accept that it looks a little odd in spots. It's a shame too, because like Drixie spent so much time working on getting like this transition to look really good, and honestly looks in some ways better than like some of the other areas because there's so much detail put into that mountain, but it just blurs by and you can't even really focus on it. The only way that we could make it so that it's more clear, and this is something we could do in general, is just make our transitions slower, but then you're sacrificing the snappability of these UI that you're going to be going in and out of for like making it so that things look nicer, and generally that's not a great place to be in either. Yeah, we don't really want to have a 2-second delay. Okay. Switching it so that the camera is moving instead of the elements at least feels okay to me though. This feels more snappy though. If we actually, can we try just bumping it up? What if it was a 5-second delay? Maybe it's because we have it on fixed update. Kazukish with the lurking. This will be the bane of me. I feel like this is the next like couple years of my life, is just looking at things moving and just like being upset that it seems off and not really knowing why. Let's try again, because I can't see what's actually happening. Let's try updating it from fixed update to late update. See if that helps with the quality of the movement. So that feels smoother. That feels a lot smoother. So maybe fixed is just my problem. Theory Infinity asking, can you have it so the UI is independent of the background so that the player can use the UI even when there is a transition? I actually already have that set up. So if I was to be moving up and down as this is happening, we can see that that's already happening as we push. And in fact, and I'll make it loud so that hopefully you can hear it, but if I click enter twice here, you'll see that when we get all the way over here, we've already selected guard and we're on the sword. And in fact, if I was to click in a third time, it should transition to the third screen. Now, obviously, we're in the middle of having all our transitions clearly broken, but they should stack. And I have set it up so that the transitions speed up if you put more transitions on the stack or on the queue. So that it should get faster and faster as you navigate. And that's something I noticed from like Persona. I played a lot of Persona's menus, and a lot of Persona's menus, you can hit A 4 times and you'll go 4 screens deep, even though they're still doing like Joker sliding in and sliding out for a bunch of them. So that the UI and what you're actually seeing isn't actually tied specifically to the inputs. So at least there's that. Okay, so we changed it from fixed to late. Now, if we change it back down to 1-second delays on this, is this feeling better? Maybe I just shouldn't have had it on fixed. So that feels smoother. I'm no longer feeling any jitter there. But I can't really, like, and this, again, might not come across great on the stream, but even to my eye on the monitor, this feels blurry to me. The mountain itself, as it passes by, feels blurry, but it's motion blurred by my eye. It's a thing that's moving fast. It will look blurry, I think. There's no way to make something that's moving quickly in front of your eye look crisp. But it's not, I don't think it's something to do with the rendering. I think it's literally a trick of the eye. Because if we were to, again, take the GIF thing, file, record, and then take a GIF of this as it's moving, and then take a look at these frames, yeah, discard previous project, I think each one of these will look crisp. It's not going to look blurry. Yeah. The pixels still look perfectly crisp here on every single one of these frames, and I can read like this canyon and these bushes and everything super well, so it's not a problem with the art itself. It's that by moving it so fast as we transition left and right, your eye gets a little blurred. Okay. I'm going to accept this is probably the best we're going to get for now. It could be that I might be fundamentally flawed in trying to do this like panorama style like camera transition, and to have something that feels snappy and move quick enough, you're just never going to have a panorama that feels good at this speed. And maybe this is part of the reason why we don't see this in UIs more often. But okay. The scale might also be a thing too. If we didn't have to move the UI as far, like imagine, okay, let's try a different thing. Let's try, what if instead of moving the camera to 13, what if we move it to 5? Where is 5 in the world? So now it's not moving as fast because it doesn't have to go as far over 1 second. And now it doesn't look as bad. So part of the issue is that we're doing such a large move over such a small period of time, and we were doing it over a small period of time because of the fact that our UI we want our UI to feel fast and snappy. So because I gave Drixie the direction to make it a very large scene and to have this kind of like mountain transition that would blur by, may have been fundamentally flawed. Okay. Things for me to chew on. Not something necessarily that we can solve in this stream, or even if Drixie arrives and does some art with us today. Not something that we'll necessarily need to tackle, but things to think about. Regardless, we now have it so that the camera is moving instead of the UI elements, which I think is still an improvement. So let's continue with this process. So now we want to have it so from here we translate the camera again, and we're going to want to translate the camera so that these two menus are in frame. Let's take a look. How do we want to go about doing this? For the sake of simplicity, I have backups via source tree. We're just going to stop making duplicates of these transitions and instead just directly modify them. If we need to go back and do something, we can. But I think at this point the test is successful. So going back to our editor window, we've went from the main menu to the equip screen. From the equip screen to the slot select, we don't do any animations because we're essentially staying on the same screen. Theory Infinity with a interesting suggestion. I feel like with a long distance transition, you might be able to make the middle of the image wider, and instead of just panning from side to side, you could zoom out in the middle and back in on the sides. That might trick the eye into not blurring objects. Okay, that is something I could explore. Zooming out implies moving the camera And we can't really move the camera because everything is pixel based though, but it's definitely something I can think about and see if there's a solution. I'm going to take your comment and I'm going to just copy it over here so that I don't lose it. Okay, so now from here to here, we are transitioning all of these pieces 428 pixels to the left, or 420 UI elements, and then doing the reverse here. So this one we're going to replace with a camera transition. So we're going to remove this and we're going to do a move to position, and we're going to move the front end camera, which I said was which Unity, what entity ID? This entity ID. Okay, and we're going to come back here. We're going to click on this again. And we're going to move it. So we went 13.5 right now. We're going to need to move it some more. I don't know offhand. We can play with it, but for now, let's just say it's 16 over another half second. And then for this one, we're going to remove, we're going to add move to position. We're going to move the camera, and we're going to go back to 13.5 over half a second. Okay. Now, if we hit play on this, we should see the camera move, maybe not perfectly, but more to the right. Okay, not correct at all. UI camera. So that was 17 point. Interesting. Oh, that was the wrong one. UI camera. We have the combat stuff and the UI stuff here in the same scene, which is probably a mistake at some point, but looks like it might just be 20. Looks like it might be just 20. This is why I made the graph, because it's basically borderline impossible for me to keep track of all these things, and so having the graph is super useful for just, I don't know, seeing what, like I want to grab a specific transition and click on it and open it, because I tried to name these things so that they're fairly clear, but it still feels like it's just a mesh of information, whereas the graph actually allows me to better comprehend what I'm seeing. Okay, so that's the UI transitioning left and right. And now it's no longer the elements moving, but the camera. Okay. Next, let's see. We need to implement more screens in this way. We need to do the rest of them. So let's take a look. What do we have? We have, this is the thing that Drixie was drawing last time, which is for the skill system. And then we don't have the item one yet. I know Drixie has done that work, so we'll wait on that and we'll do the equip screen for now then. And item should be easy though. Item is a single transition to the left, and we hold on that for when we go in and out. Although I think the item screen in general is kind of busted right now. Oh yeah, it's not even opening. Interesting. Oh, a bunch of bugs. Okay. Let's focus on skill screen for now. We'll come back to the items and why items is broken at a later point. I think I know what that problem is. I think I didn't test something the other day. Okay, so we can come into this one, we can come into this one, and we can come into this one. And these elements aren't here because we turned them off with the auto deactivate, and we now need to add our sequences to turn them on again. Okay. Okay, so now we've got to change up this UI. So this is main menu to unit select skill screen. And this is turning on all of these elements. We're going to add the other ones that we also told it to auto deactivate. So we have it auto deactivating the skill info. We're going to turn that on. Where did that go? Sorry, I'm clicking on it off camera. This one. So this here, let's also lock this for now, so that we don't lose it. And then what was the other one? That was this one, right? That was this that turns on and off. The node info might have been the other one. It was. Interesting, because Wait a second. Did we already have... Oh, we had the node menu, not the node info. Okay, and then we need to do the same thing on this one. So we need to turn off the skill info and the node info when we're leaving. Okay, so when we enter, we turn everything on. As part of quote-unquote everything, this is the equipment background. Let's give this a better name. Equipment background. And then let's duplicate this. And we're going to do the same thing, and this will be... this one. Cool. That looks like that lined up correctly. Ooh, we're missing a piece. Oh, when Drixie set this up, it looks like she may have missed a part of it. She did give me the original file. Let me just open that on my other monitor real quick and see if I can find it. Interesting. Nope, the file doesn't have the correct piece either. Huh. Okay. So in the same way that the if we turn this one off, in the same way that there's like this mountain that kind of connects with the tower and we transition into the main area, there's supposed to be for this one a similar connecting piece that transition us into these floating islands. For now, we'll just set it up so it moves to the right spot. It's just going to be missing a bit of that transitional period or transitional part. Let's name this skill background and give it the same name here for its entity ID. And then our system will turn that on as well and off. So turn this on and turn that off and turn this on. Okay, so the background will turn on with all of these other pieces. Okay, and we need to update the animation part. So we do a UI fade on the main menu. What were we doing on the equip? Nothing. Okay, let's do the same thing here. We won't fade the main menu or turn off the main menu in either spot. And then here we turn everything on. And then I think after that we do the move to position. And we'll do the same 13.5. It's probably going to be 10 now. It'll eventually be 13.5, but for now it'll be 10. Front end camera. Over 0.5 seconds. Okay. Now, most of the UI is probably not going to be positioned correctly for this transition, but let's see how this is looking, at least. My system is busted. And that's busted because the thing we just removed is probably reused by the transition for HUD to main menu. This fades it up. This turns off the HUD component. No, it looks like a different set of sequences that turn it on from the HUD. So we shouldn't have broke that. How did we break the main menu? Main menu screen. The main menu list is off. We did a main menu screen, last screen HUD. So we were on the HUD and we went to the main menu screen. So we should have played a transition for HUD to main menu. Right, okay. Yeah, no, we did mess with it. We did open with this open main menu, I think is the same piece that was getting used for this one. Yeah. Yeah, we were repurposing the same transition. So that when we open the main menu, it was still the same. So I think the fix to that is what we're going to do is revert our work. On the other screen, go into source tree, open main menu, and close main menu. I'm going to revert the changes that we just did so that we get those changes back. Okay, so now it's doing the thing it was doing before. Now we're going to duplicate those, and we're going to make this open menu from HUD, and we're going to make this one from HUD, and we're going to have both of these be empty still, because that's what we want for all other cases, I think. But when we're entering in from the HUD, which I'll try and I don't know what my transition is going to be, that's a more complicated problem, but for now at least we'll do the same thing we had been doing. So close main menu from HUD, open main menu from HUD. I guess this is 2. Okay, and then didn't like me trying to save. Okay, so if we run it now, we should be able to see everything pop up again, hopefully. Okay, yep. Neat. Things are sufficiently broken, but they're kind of doing a thing. Okay, so all of the UI wasn't laid out to fit in the right spots. So that's kind of the next piece of the puzzle. So the elements need to be in the right spots, which we'll have to remove again once we get the new art with the transition piece, but hopefully it'll be a uniform move. Okay, so this is node info. This needs to be down in the bottom left of this piece. This needs to be over here. For clarity, we're going to turn off the equip stuff, and we're also going to turn off of the combat UI. So it's a little easier to see what's happening. We'll also turn off the equip. Okay. So we'll put the stats in the top right. Now the stats actually appear on the bottom one as well. And so that's going to be a bit tricky, but what I'm going to try and do is translate this information at the same speed as the camera movement, so it looks like this isn't moving at all. That's going to be pretty difficult, but we're going to try and get that right. Alright, next up, what else we got? We've got the skill title bar, which doesn't look to be anything. It's just an empty object. Okay, might be able to just remove that. We're going to get things roughed in first. Oh no. I just realized I'm missing work. I converted these into prefabs the other day. Is that not... Oh no, did I start working in the wrong branch? It's fine. It's not fine, but it's fine. Yeah, I'm in the wrong branch. This is supposed to be somewhere else now. Darn. I'm gonna have to redo everything. So that kind of worked, at least for a second. There's still some popping that's happening. Let's solve the popping part. So basically, I think I'm going to lose any scene changes. So any modifications I made in the scene, I'm going to have to redo. But all of the transitional logic of like hooking up everything to transition to the right spot is fine. So most everything we've done today is okay. It's really just getting into, and this is why I only just noticed it, moving these elements to their correct position. That's something I'm going to have to redo again. But I'm going to have to redo that again anyways when the UI comes in. So when I get the updated background. When I give Drixie the feedback or missing the left piece. So it's all fine. Everything's fine. It's practice. So we've got this all set up. We need to have it stop popping. So I think it's popping. If we look at our transition, when we transition in from... We turn everything on and then we move the camera. And then in reverse, we turn everything off and move the camera. I think we should turn everything off after we've moved the camera back to 0, 0. I think that'll fix the popping. This is blocking, so it won't move on to the next step until this step is completely finished. Okay, cool. That's what the problem was just that. There is a small issue of the A and B not moving, which is unfortunate, but that's a problem I can solve a different day. Okay, so where... These are roughed in positions. That'll probably be fine for now. Now the next thing is the next transition. And again, these transitions are good. I should keep moving on the transition part at the very least. Window, node editor. So here, when we go from skill select, we translate the skill unit menu, and we translate all of this stuff. So all of this is going to get replaced with one camera animation move, and then the inverse camera animation move. Okay, so we're going to remove this one. We're going to remove these. We're going to remove these. And we're going to remove this one. Okay. And we're going to update this guy. So move to position. We're going to move the front camera. And it's already at 10. So let's try 15 over 0.5 seconds. And then in reverse, it's going to move it back to 10. Over 0.5 seconds. Okay, so now it should basically move to the right, and then it should go to the right a little bit further. Like so. 10 is way too far. Or not 10, 15. Can we move it in scene and see where we need to line it up to? 13 and a half. A little bit less. It actually needs to be lined up perfectly with this edge is the most important, because we don't want to show this gray part because we don't have that drawn in. So we move it down 1. Oh, that's up. Down 1. 4.5 might be perfect. Yeah, 13.45. Not the coolest number, but... And then... Okay, so then that'll translate us to the right spot, hopefully. So we go here, we go here, we're choosing our skills. And then from here, now we want to go down. I'm pretty sure. So here, we're going to be going from the skill select down to here. The reason I have two like knobs or two like nodes on every single one of my transitions was my intent was that we could reuse stuff in the way that we ran into a problem a moment ago where main menu was reused. It's open from multiple different locations because multiple things can open into the main menu. The problem is as we come more into this paradigm of like the panoramas, we run into this issue where everything feels much more concrete. There's more of a specificness to it, and we can't really break it up into like two halves as much. Like, oh, you're entering into the screen and opening, closing out of this other screen. It's more. It feels much more like you are leaving this screen and entering this screen, and very specifically doing like a transition of that is unique to those two screens. And there's not as much reuse, I don't think. Apparently we turn on the left and right trigger. at this moment. That might be fine. Let's at least start by, so this is translating UI. Oh, undo. We need this translation still. This has to go down with the camera. This part can go away. We can remove that section. And we can remove that section. This can go away, and this can go away. Okay. Now here, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it. Let's just move the camera. And we're gonna go from where we were at 13.45. We're going to stay on the same X position, but we're going to go down. And let's go down by -10 to start and see if that's close. And then the skill info, we're going to want to translate down by, I don't know, 485 or some number to figure. That one's going to be a bit more ballparky to figure out. We may not need to turn these things off. What were these? I feel like these are things that we're leaving behind on the previous screen now, and we don't need to be as picky about turning them on and off. They're the left-right toggles on this thing. Okay, so that's going to move with us, with this skill info. So we are going to want to turn those off still. Let's turn them off at the very beginning, and let's turn them on at the very end here. Okay, and then we need to add the camera move to position. And we're going to move back to 13.45 over 0.5 seconds, and we are moving the front end camera. Okay. Okay, we overshot it. 10 was too much. We can check. We can get the actual number by just pulling this back down. -8.5 it looks like is where we're going to. And then this didn't go far enough, and this is where the real nightmare is going to be, is getting this to move with the camera. So it needs to be at -550. We need to move another 58 pixels. So 58 plus 485. try 550. Unlockable characters with the redemption. It's probably 543 actually. The redemption for the hydrate, which I'm getting to. Oh, and the stretch. Some sort of madman. I'm coding. I can't stretch. Oh, that's a good idea. Streaming for like, what have we been on for? Like 6-8 hours today? Doing all the streams? It's a good move. So here might be the problem. That looked awful. It's ending up in the perfect position. It is exactly where it needs to be. This is clearly not where it needs to be, but... And then with that, unlockable characters, calling it a night. Appreciate you hanging out today and doing the redemptions. Keeping me hydrated and stretching. I do appreciate it. I do need the reminders. And I just love interacting with folks. Honestly, these channel point things has been a real fun boost to streaming. Anyways, I hope you have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you. Okay. All right. So how do we go about this? So my first thought is that we slide the guard thing off and then slide it back on again. Is it because we have snapping turned on, maybe? It's also possibly because it's on a different update, because we did change the update. So now, let's start by changing it from late, and then let's turn off the snapping and see if that helps. If that ends up making it look a little bit more inline and fluid. Probably don't want to modify two things at the same time, but I think it's going to be both. Ooh, so it's a little wobbly, but otherwise it's better. Let's turn snapping back on and see if that helps or hinders. But I'm going to guess the updating was what was causing it to look a little bit more jittery. A little jitter, but that looks better. Let's count pixels. If we zoom way in, can I pull this to the left? I can't. Okay, fine. You know what? We'll do it the easy way. Do we have the screenshot tool on right now? Screenshot. Screenshot. Find in scene. We do not have the debug screenshot tool in. So let's add that to a random object. And then let's hit Shift P. We took a screenshot, which will be a perfect resolution representation. I'm going to go find that, and we're going to open it in A-Sprite, and we're going to count the number of pixels that it is from the top and bottom. Or from the top, I should say. Screenshots. open in a sprite. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pixels from the top. And then if we go back and we take another screenshot, and then we bring that one into a sprite, one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is a 1 pixel difference. So that means that we likely need to move this an extra pixel. So, okay, so up here it's 8, up here it's 7. So we probably want to go 4 pixels down. Or, sorry, to the 4th. We want to go to up to 544. Okay. And okay, that was the problem. It looks like the guard text jitters ever so slightly. It like shifts like up and down halfway, but otherwise the frame itself looks pretty static in the screen. I'm probably fine with that for the time being. Okay. Cool. Let's get this thing showing up in the right spot. So what is that? That is the node loader, maybe? Let's find out what position it's supposed to be in. It's the node menu. Okay. And this thing is supposed to be positioned somewhere around there. That looks about right. Did that not take? That's not the right values. Upsetting. We'll have to do it again. Some things broke, but it's fine. So we need to drag this node menu down to here-ish. Copy component. 625 negative 288. Okay. Perfect. Okay. I think that's working as intended. Again, there's some tweaking to be done. I'm gonna have to redo some of the positioning, but I think the transitions are set up, you know, pretty close to what they're gonna be. I need the item background one in order to do the item screen, but that should be close to the concept we're going for. Oh, are we not toggling this equipment background on and off? We must be, because it's set to auto deactivate. So why was that not loading for the equipment screen now? Oh. Okay. Okay, that's working. Now if we come into here... Oh, that stuff is still turned on. Okay, so there's some bugs with going between screens, and that's probably because we're not turning things off. Here we turn them on. Here we're not turning them off. So we need to do this same logic here. Base set activity, the most simplest thing we can do. And we want to be turning these elements back off when we switch. Because if we transition to the right again, we don't want to be showing this information. We only want it on when we're actually going to this screen. Okay, and we turn it off after we fully transitioned to the left again. Let's give that a try. Going to equip. Nothing is here. Huh. Oh, that's because the equip screen is still... I had toggled this off so I could see. It needs to be toggled off when we're not in play mode. Okay, that all seems fine. Okay. Cool. Those screens seem to be working. All right. Cool. And then eventually these will be different trees with different layouts. Okay. Cool. Just sorry, as I'm just kind of marveling in it. Okay, so the item screen is no longer busted. I'm not sure how we got it to error earlier. But we are missing our allies here. We should be able to target people, but that might have to do with the missing code that I don't have. Okay, and then this looks wrong, so it also needs a image update. We haven't updated the item screen to use the new latest version of the UI art as well. Okay. One small thing I just noticed is the equip title is also not in the right position. Should be in the same spot here, basically. Interesting. It breaks if it's the first thing we go into. Again, I think I know what that is, but... Oh, right. It needs to be further to the left because of the transition. So if we turn off the skill background, we can kind of line it up a little bit easier. Should be closer to there, I think. Okay. Again, kind of eyeballing because I have to make some of these changes again, but cool. So we have transitioned from moving all of the elements themselves to moving just the camera and then moving elements like this skill info when we need it. We need to turn back on the skill background. But otherwise, I think we're in a good spot here. Transitions have been updated. I need to do a pass on the item screen to use the latest art, and I need to get Trixie to get me the item background, and I need to get Trixie to get me the skill background with the extra transition attached to the tower. But other than that, I think I kind of accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I think I'm in a good spot here that I'll probably continue some of these pixel pushings off camera, and I have to redo some of this work, but I think I'm good to call it today. Did a lot of Minecraft and got started on game dev, and I think the next few things I want to do here are probably going to be repeats of what we've just done on stream, so I'm probably going to do that on my own. But thanks for those of you who stuck around and helped poke and debug at things. Appreciate the people poking and giving thoughts and ideas. It definitely helps get me thinking and getting things figured out. So I'm going to call it here. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you on the next one, probably tomorrow at lunchtime for me, around 12 PST. Again, if you're ever unsure about when I'm streaming, you can also check the schedule. I'm trying to be better about updating my schedule. No. We can not hear myself twice. If we go to... How do we go to my schedule? Is it impossible to get to my schedule? I think it's because I'm live. If I wasn't live, it wouldn't be a problem. But if we come over to here, and when you come to the channel from the home page, there's a schedule section. I'm trying to keep this up to date with information so you can see when I'll be live for an hour with Minecraft. And I tried this weekend to keep up to date, and I didn't exactly follow it, but tried to keep up to date with when we were doing stuff. So, cool. That was the last thing I wanted to say, in case people are unaware.